Good evening, everyone. This is Reverend Hung Sher coming to you from Queensland, Australia, Gold Coast. It is Saturday, May 29th here. Should be Friday, May 28th back in America. Wherever you are around the world, it's nice to be with you this early morning. It's winter here in Queensland. And I apologize for last week showing up ill, and indeed, my affliction was called a rhinovirus. I'd never heard of a rhinovirus, but that's what I tested for. And it is, it's a week of misery. You are sick for a week, 7 days down. So now week is up and I'm back up and looking forward to looking into investigating Guanyin Bodhisattva's Pu Menpin Universal Gateway chapter. 大家早安，今天我还是很乐意有机会跟大家一起研究《法华经》观世音菩萨普门品。我现在好了，上个礼拜了不舒服了7天有一种特别的 rhinovirus，那要7天才能恢复了，那就完全恢复了，所以大家不用担心了阿弥陀佛，感恩大家的慈悲Thank you all for your kind regard while I was down and sick, and I'm back. So it's one of those strange things about being a human that you don't appreciate good health when it's there. Once you're sick, oh my, you long for those days of worry-free physical well-being, right? Joni Mitchell said, don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you got till it's gone? So the blessing of health is truly a blessing to cherish. Here is today's text, and this is the Faha Jing. So I'm going to read to you down to there, we'll read the whole page. Okay, first in Chinese, then in English. Okay, I've got my palms together. You're welcome to join me. 若三千大千国度满中原贼，有一商主，长诸商人，疾驰中宝，经过险路，其中一人辅做事常言，主善男子，无得恐怖，汝等应当一心称观世音菩萨名号，使菩萨能以无畏施予众生。汝等若称名者，于此原罪，当得解脱。众商人闻，俱发声言：南无观世音菩萨。称其名故，皆得解脱。吾今以观世音菩萨摩诃萨为神之力，唯为如是。Suppose vicious thieves in legions that could fill a threefold, large, thousand-world system infest the perilous road along which a merchant chief guides a trader's caravan laden with precious jewels. If one man among them proclaims, good men, do not be afraid. With all your hearts, invoke the name of Guanshi Yin Bodhisattva, the enlightened one who gives courage to all beings. If we beseech this Bodhisattva, we will surely escape these thieves. Upon hearing this exhortation, if all the traders in unison cry out, Namo Guanshi Yin Bodhisattva, by virtue of calling out Guanshi Yin's name, they will immediately go free. Infinite resolve, how imposing is the awesome spiritual power of the great Bodhisattva who listens to the sounds of all the world. This is our section of text from the Pu Menpin, the Universal Door chapter, and I want to say how much I appreciate the volunteers who put this sutra together. That we have this beautiful edition with a frontispiece with the Buddha, and then 2 images of Guanyin, thousand hand Guanyin, and Hong Yi Guanyin, not Bai Yi Guanyin, but Hong Yi Guanyin, with her willow branch and ambrosia, the sweet dew in the vase. Is that it? Yeah, in the pitcher. So just excellent. All right. What does our text say? We looked at this once before, but I wanted to go back to it because I skipped over one of the important dharmas that occurs here in the Pumanpin, and that is Guanyin Bodhisattva as bestower of courage. If you want to say giver of fearlessness, can. Same thing. Courage, fearlessness, lack of fear, both. Guanyin Bodhisattva has this quality in her vows, in her nature. She recognized that one of the things that comes along with being a human is fear. And oh my goodness, is that ever true? Right? It's part of, I guess it's part of being a living being, not just a human being. I'm here surrounded by animals and birds. And the animals and birds here in the Queensland bush have been here being themselves for millions of years, unhampered, unburdened, unblocked. The way they are now is the way they've been for millions of years. And wow, is it ever helpful and informative and instructive and enlightening to watch other formations of consciousness live their lives up close. And my ticket to this world is birdseed, because some of our kind volunteers here provide me with birdseed, so I get to observe birds interacting with their own kind through the generations, parents and kids, and interacting with the other species in the bush, in the forest. And then at night, out come the furry ones, bandicoots. Anybody ever relate to a bandicoot? Well, we get to. What about pythons? Fact of life here. What about brush-tail possums? Oh my, every night. And fear keeps them alive. We have kookaburras who will land on your hand or on your arm or on your leg if you teach them to do that, because they lose a certain amount of fear. But when I interact with these animals, I have learned to modify my behavior so that I don't trigger their fear survival reflex. And one important thing is, don't look at their eyes. Unless it's a kookaburra. Kookaburras stare at you. Kookaburras are like, how you doing? They look at you with both eyes when they trust you. And gradually you gain their trust and they look at you carefully. But the other birds, particularly our scrub turkeys, bush turkeys, if you look at them in the eye, they are gone. Their translation of perceiving a threat and danger and running away is faster than your eye can follow. That's how they survive. So animals have built-in fear reflexes that work for them to keep them alive. Look at humans. What do we have? Oh, we have a little bit of fear. We have worry. What else do we have? We have anxieties. We have distress. We have unease. We have fear, fright, panic, terror, horror, alarm, agitation, trepidation, dread. And when there's nothing to fear, we can even send out negative projections in case there's something to be afraid of. So look at this. We have so many different things that we are afraid of. Guanyin Bodhisattva knows that. And excuse me, I sneezed. And because Guanyin is tuned in to what it means to be alive in a human body, Guanyin makes it one of her particular missions to give us something called courage, fearlessness. Now, we're here in the Pumanpian, the Universal Gateway, right? But there's another place that occurred to me where Guanyin also appears to talk about the very same thing. And where is that? Anybody know? I bet you do. In the Entering the Dharma Realm, chapter 39, the Gandavyuha chapter of the Avatamsaka Sutra, Guanyin Bodhisattva appears again. And right there in the Gandavyuha, when she is serving as the good and wise advisor to Sudana, good wealth, Guanyin talks about fearlessness. Here's what she says. Look at this. I got a little passage here. I'm going to read you the whole thing. There it is. Now, the Chinese translator, sorry, I didn't get you the Chinese. So you can give a summary here. Okay, what does Guanyin say to Sudana? Sudana has said, 大圣,我早已听大圣能指导我，我想问如何修菩萨道，如何行菩萨行。Okay, or the other way around, 如何行菩萨道，如何修菩萨行。请大圣为我解说。Right? Sudana asks the question that he asks to every one of his 53 teachers. He says, I've heard that you, great sage, are a wonderful teacher. Please explain to me how I should walk the Bodhisattva path, how I should practice Bodhisattva practices. Okay, so Guanyin says, good man, have you made the Bodhi resolve? 观音菩萨就说：“善男子，如意发大菩提心跑，你有没有发大菩提心？”上菜童子就说：“喂，我早已经发菩提心。” So Guanyin Bodhisattva asks a question back. She says, "Good man, have you made the Bodhi resolve? Have you fa da puti xin?" And Sudana says, "Yes, I have. I've done that a long time ago." Guanyin says, "Excellent, excellent. Good indeed," rolls up her sleeves and says, "Let's get to work." Here's what she says. She says, good man, could be a good woman, the same. She's talking to Sudana, so it's good man. As I cultivate this practice method of great compassion, I vow to forever save and protect all beings. Here it begins. I vow to enable all beings to leave behind the fear of treacherous paths, to leave behind the fear of hot afflictions, to leave behind the fear of confused delusion, to leave behind the fear of being bound and fettered, to leave behind the fear of being killed and harmed, to leave behind the fear of poverty and destitution, to leave behind the fear of not living, to leave behind the fear of an evil reputation, to leave behind the fear of death, to leave behind the fear of the great assembly, to leave behind the fear of the evil destinies, to leave behind the fear of darkness, to leave behind the fear of wandering and drifting, to leave behind the fear of being apart from what you love, to leave behind the fear of meeting what you hate, to leave behind the fear of things that oppress the body, to leave behind the fear of things that oppress the mind, to leave behind the fear of worry and anxiety. Moreover, I make the following vow. I vow that all beings who are mindful of me or recite my name or see my person will be completely spared and removed from all apprehension and terror. Good man, once I have, with these expedients, enabled all beings to leave behind apprehension and terror, I further teach them to bring forth their resolve for Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Okay, now, what? Oh, there we go. Yay, somebody is quick. Okay, Yihuan, you're quick with the. So, 我们法尼普通话的同参道友，这里有中文。Okay, So our Chinese translator, we've got the Chinese right there in the chat box. Yeah. Okay. What's going on here? Yes, we are explaining the Fa Hua Jing, the Lotus Sutra, but I thought, wow, there's another place where Guanyin does the same thing, only in detail, what it means to bestow courage. And here it is. Guanyin says, I vow to enable everybody to leave behind. Li Kai, right? To leave behind 14 kinds of fear. Some of them I thought were really interesting. Poverty, destitution, not living. I think of having no livelihood is what this is actually. Not being able to provide for your dependents. Okay, anybody who has taken part in an explanation of the 10 stages chapter will recall in the first stage, there's what are called the fivefold fears. Well, here they are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wu Ming Wei, right? Ming Wei, Si Wei, Da Zhong Wei De Wei, Dao Wei. There it is. Those are the 5, right? The no livelihood, loss of face, evil reputation is loss of face, right? Somebody steals your family name. Oh, how do you get it back, right? It's like feathers out of a pillow. It's really hard to get them all back once people start to hear gossip about you, right? That's a fear, right? People are afraid of that. To lose face is a motivator. To leave behind the fear of death. Oh, man. I see the animals, right? The birds. Boom. You blink and they're gone. The fastest ones now are the doves. We have 3 kinds of doves and pigeons who come to eat at the food bowl every day, the birdseed bowl. And they, if I'm in my room behind the glass, as soon as my head pops up above the level where they could see it out of the corner of their eye, I'm not even outdoors. Boom, they're gone. That's how much their fear of death is acute and triggers them to survive. I guess because pigeons have no weapons, right? Kookaburras, they're like, no worries, mate. No, we'll get along. Yeah, she's right, because they have this huge beak. They have a weapon. Oh my goodness. So to leave behind the fear of the great assembly, what's that? Stage fright. Look at this one. Fear of darkness. Anybody afraid of the dark? Yeah. Remember when you were small? Oh, don't turn out the light, Mom. Oh my goodness. Look at these, wandering and drifting. And here are sufferings. This is what? Ai Bie Li Ku. Yuan Zheng Hui Ku. Here they are, right? Two of the 8 kinds of fears. To be apart from what you love and meeting what you hate. That's scary, right? That will keep you from moving. To leave behind the fear of things that oppress the body and the mind, and worry and anxiety. Okay. Then Guanyin makes a vow. She says, if you're mindful of me, Nian Wo, Nian Bi Guanyin Li. If you recite my name, Cheng Wo Ming Hao, look at this. All you do is see Guanyin. If you look at Guanyin and see her, that person will be spared and set free from all apprehension and terror. Apprehension. That's one we could add to our list, can't we? Where was that list? Come back here. Kinds of fears. Oh, it's list is right there. Apprehension. Okay. Yep. Add that one. So, but what I think is especially interesting is Guanyin isn't done with simply delivering us from fear. What does she do? She says, furthermore, I teach them to bring forth the Bodhi resolve once the fear is gone. Isn't that interesting? So Guan Yin's, what her teaching to Sudana in the Flower Garland Sutra is, if you recite my name, if you are mindful of me, bring a thought of me to your mind, if you see me, I will make the fears go away. And then I'm going to follow that up. Once your mind is liberated from that emotion of fear, then I'm going to plant the seed of enlightenment. I'm going to let you know what your mind is capable of. Great wisdom, great compassion, Bodhi resolve. Once that Bodhi resolve arises in your mind, you change your outlook. Your priorities shift once the Bodhi resolve has really taken root. Which is, you say, you know, worldly attainments are good. Wow. More than one PhD, 2 or 3 PhDs, right? Or you mix a academic and a professional degree. I want a PhD and an MD. I'm going to spend a lot of hours in the classroom, a lot of hours doing research, a lot of hours walking the halls of hospitals so I can help people. Okay. Or you say, I'm going to have the healthiest children I could have, right? I'm going to have good kids. I'm going to spend time with my kids, support them, inspire them, and then let them fly on the foundation of wings that I've given them, right? I'm not going to smother them once I've raised them. What an accomplishment. Those are all wonderful accomplishments to do in the world, but there's more. Where do Buddhas come from? They come from people who made the Bodhi resolve and said, I'm going for the top. I'm going to look deep in my mind and find out where wisdom can arise and let it rise. I'm going to transform all those pieces of false thoughts into one great, perfect, reflecting mirror. Da Yuan Jing Zhi, right? That's what I can do. And the way I do that is I come to terms with all of my living beings. What are they? Greed, anger, delusion, pride, doubt, jealousy, all those. Those are living beings. Fear is living beings, right? Who say, I'm afraid I want to survive, help, right? Guan Yin says, right, I'm going to deal with that so you can make the Bodhi resolve. But the Bodhi resolve, once you recognize what you want, your goal, you come to terms with the path to that goal. The path to that goal is in the same place. You don't go anywhere else to make the Bodhi resolve come about, right? It's right in the mind. So that brings us to the next part of the sutra. Right here. I'm going to read this one. 若有众生多于隐喻，常念恭敬观世音菩萨，便得离欲；若多嗔恚，常念恭敬观世音菩萨，便得离嗔；若多愚痴，常念恭敬观世音菩萨，便得离痴。If any living being with weighty desires can constantly revere and keep in mind Guan Shi Yin Bodhisattva, her passions will subside. If somebody with much anger can constantly revere and keep in mind Guan Shi Yin Bodhisattva, then her anger will subside. If someone dull and foolish can constantly revere and keep in mind Guan Shi Yin Bodhisattva, she will leave stupidity behind. All right. So this story that we started with today about thieves, we have a merchant chief taking people out to do business, and they run into thieves who are trying to steal their goods. That is number 7 of the Qi Nan, the 7 troubles, disasters, dangers that Guanyin Bodhisattva protects us from. And after we meet those dangers and surmount them, vanquish them, defeat them through mindfulness of Guanyin, the next thing that happens is San Du, the 3 poisons that Guanyin Bodhisattva says afflict the mind, and made a vow to help us get past. I don't know, Buddhism is so useful. It's so practical. Buddhism goes right to where the pain is, right to where the suffering comes from, which is what? Poisons in my mind. The 7 difficulties are external, right? Floods, fires, bandits, trouble with the state, wild animals, right? Demons, rakshas, yakshas, those kind of troubles. And thieves if you're trying to do business, right? And tucked into that last one is fear. Fear is a danger, and being afraid of things. Fear sometimes. Now, I need to, in our discussion of fear, I didn't specify one thing. Watching the birds and watching the furry critters trigger their fear response is very helpful for them. It keeps them alive. When the birds that I'm watching are pretty much called garden birds. They're common all over southeastern Australia, right? And in the West too, but different kinds. And they all operate, the kookaburras go down to the ground, but the other birds like to be 15, 20 feet up in the air. They like to be in the air, right? My deck is on a hillside, my cabin here. So I'm, to build the platform up takes me up in the air, and the house is raised so that the water can rush under it. So it's so nice to be up high at the bird's level so I can see them. They don't have to come down to the ground where they're in danger. I'm up where they are, so I get to see them. These garden birds have something all share, which is fear of raptors. Raptors are eagles and hawks in all their varieties. When an eagle, a sea eagle, or forgotten the name of the indigenous eagle, a wedgetail, when the wedgetails go by, or hawks, of which there are numerous ones, or for any reason owls might be out during the day. They're not mostly. They're nocturnal. But when one of those large raptors fly overhead, there is a signal, and all the garden birds at once hide. And it's so interesting to see they share a common language, a common wavelength, a common vibratory tone. But, oh man, as soon as the shadow of a raptor crosses the yard, somebody, and I think it doesn't matter who does it, whoever's got the fastest response goes, and silent, not a sound, not a bird. They're all under the leaves, waiting for the raptor to go. So that kind of fear, and by transference, by analogy, in people, fear is useful. We burn ourselves on the stove and we're afraid to do it again because it hurts. Once burned, twice shy, right? We don't want to stick our hand in the stove ring anymore because we know that hurts. That will harm our body. So fear is helpful. Guanyin Bodhisattva is here to respond in unhelpful fears. Okay. So how does she do it? Well, I think if I were Guanyin and I'm not, but if I were, I would, in my vows as a Buddha who, is Zheng Fa Ming Ru Lai, I would take my appearance, my name, and my vows and charge them with wholesome light, so that when a human with our particular human consciousness and our human skandhas, this set of components, when we take Guanyin Bodhisattva's image, thought, name, or vows, or practices, the mantra, the various mantras, Om Mani Padme Hum, Great Compassion Mantra, etc. When we take these mantras or Guanyin's vows or her image into our minds, it sheds that light. It sends that calming vibration. And it's true that if we're reciting Namo Guan Shi Yin Bodhisattva, Namo Guanyin Bodhisattva, Namo Guanyin Pusa, or Guanyin Pusa, right? Or Jiu Ku Jiu Nan, Guanyin Bodhisattva who saves us from troubles and disasters. When we take that vibration into our mind, it generates that calming, wholesome, fundamental, primal light and energy. And the fear that arises from, I could be in trouble. Maybe something might come to hurt me, right? That projection of danger vanishes the way light vanishes darkness, right? Darkness that's been in a room for 10,000 years, as soon as you light one cell phone flashlight, is gone forever, right? Light up your flashlight on your cell phone and 10,000 years of darkness are banished, right? Doesn't matter how long it's been dark in that room, light up your light. I was going to say match. I was going to say candle. I was going to say lighter. Nobody carries lighters. We don't smoke like that anymore. We don't have matches and candles, right? We do have cell phones with flashlights. Light up your cell phone flashlight. Poof, that light wins, banishes the dark, right? So Guanyin Bodhisattva's name and image, mantra, and presence does the same to our minds. It is the flashlight in the darkness of the fear in our mind. That's how it works, right? You have to do it, but if you do, that's what happens. Okay, now we're turning towards the three poisons. You have weighty desires. The sutra in Chinese specifies sexual desire, but there are other desires that can poison the mind. Desire for wealth, sex, fame, food, sleep, all can do it, right? Anger that arises from that desire unsatisfied. And then stupidity, which can often be the result of angry deeds or words after desire is unsatisfied. Those all melt away for the same reason. Although the poisons are there in the mind, we are living beings. Guanyin's name, vibration, light, goodness, vows, virtue, strength, Nian, be Guanyin Li, be mindful of the strength of Guanyin. That's all enough to purify, to banish those poisons. It really works that way. And I have a wonderful, wonderful song to share. There's a turkey outside my door talking to me. Gark, gark. Speak up. Okay, wait till the sun rises and we'll feed you. So, paramitas, a bodhisattva's power tools, operate by antidote. They are the cure for troubles that we living beings have. And one of the first of the paramitas is generosity, the act of giving, being generous in your donations, in your offerings, in your gifts, right? And the paramita, they say, if there were no afflictions, there wouldn't be any dharma. But because we living beings have afflictions, so therefore, because things go wrong, afflictions means troubles, worries, the blues, right? Black smoke out the tailpipe of your car. That's an affliction. And that's why the Buddha Dharma exists, is to antidote, to cure, to heal, to fix what ails you. So because living beings are stingy, because we have greed and I want more and more and more, I'm not satisfied with enough, right? So that's an affliction. That doesn't help us at all. That's a pain. It's a misery. It doesn't satisfy. And so generosity, giving, is the antidote to that kind of greed, right? That desire. And the author, John Steinbeck, that was a quick transition, wasn't it? John Steinbeck, one of my favorite authors. I read everything that John Steinbeck ever wrote. He, in The Grapes of Wrath, some people call it the great American novel, we'll see. In The Grapes of Wrath, the Joad family are on their truck. They've left Oklahoma. They're heading for California. And they have the whole family, including grandma, in a rocking chair on the truck. And it's a mighty hard road that my poor hands have hoed. My poor feet have traveled a hot, dusty road. So, my goodness, there are two boys in the truck. There's a big brother and a little brother. They're both, I guess, about maybe 10 and 8. And the scene in Steinbeck's novel is the family truck pulls up to a country store. And the country store is the only place for miles and miles that will offer a drink of water, some gasoline, and sundries, things you need to the travelers who are just in caravans of these similar trucks and cars escaping the Dust Bowl. Oh, what a story. So in this particular scene, the Joad family truck pulls up and Dad gets to work doing what he's got to do to keep the truck running, and Mom has to attend to the elders, and the two boys jump out of the truck and zoom, they're over into the store, plastering their faces to the candy counter. And if you have ever been in one of these country stores, you know that chances are the sweets are in a white porcelain display with a round Lazy Susan type display that is motorized and it turns, right? And there are the salted cashews. There are the jujubes. There are the licorice barrels. Oh my. Maybe even some Good and Plenty in the pink and black box, remember? Good and Plenty. Oh man, these kids, of course, they're poor. These are poor kids. They just don't have anything. But they have hopes and dreams, and they're staring at the candies and salivating. Now, in this roadside store, there's also a little cafe section set aside, a couple tables. And here are two truck drivers drinking coffee. And the kids, they're watching the scene, and the waitress who was running the store She's probably about 15 or maybe a little older. And she's the daughter of the owner. And the kids are drooling as they look at the penny candies. The penny candies are these big sticks of sugar, right? If you tried to bite down on one, you break your tooth. They're just maybe 6 inches long and pure sugar. And kids can lick on them for days until they get down to the last sticky nub, which they carry in their fist. Oh my. And so the kids say, "How much are them candies?" And the waitress looks at the kids and she says, "Well, how much have you got?" Kid says, "We've only a penny between us." She looks at them. She looks at the candies on the counter. She says, "Well, these candies are 2 for a penny." And of course, they're not. They're a penny each, but they've only a penny between them. So the kids go, "Can we buy 2?" And she pulls 2 big all-day candies out of the dispenser. They hand her a sticky penny from the bottom of the linty pocket, their jumper, and they run off to the back of the truck, disappear among the mattresses down to the bottom of the truck, and start licking on their penny candy. Of course, their sister, "Give me some, give me some." Oh my. So the truck drivers look at the waitress and say, "Hey, them candies ain't 2 for a penny." She looks at them and says, "What's it to you?" So she's done a good deed. Well, the truck drivers finish their coffee and straighten their clothes and head for the door, say goodbye. And she goes over to their chair. She says, hey, you left too much money." And the truck drivers turn back and say, "So what's it to you?" And out they go. They pay it forward. Generosity, right? It overcomes greed. And Chris Christopherson, bless his heart, yes, that Chris Christopherson, captured Steinbeck's story in a wonderful song called "Here Comes That Rainbow Again." The scene was a small roadside cafe. The waitress was sweeping the floor. 2 truck drivers drinking their coffee. 2 okay kids by the door. "How much are them candies?" they asked her. "How much have you got?" she replied. "We've only a penny between us. Them's 2 for a penny," she lied. The daylight grew heavy with thunder, with the smell of the rain on the wind. Ain't it just like a human? Here comes that rainbow again. One truck driver called to the waitress after the kids went outside. "Them candies ain't 2 for a penny." "So what's it to you?" she replied. In silence they finished their coffee. They got up and nodded goodbye. She called, "Hey, you left too much money." "So what's it to you?" they replied. Daylight grew heavy with thunder, with the smell of the rain on the wind. Ain't it just like a human? Here comes that rainbow again. songs that arise from literature, preserving some of humanity's best moments. All right, so the time has come. We have just cracked the first one of Guanyin's dispelling three kinds of poison. And we'll get back next week to the anger and the delusion part. We talked about the greed a bit. Today we talked about courage, bestowing courage and fearlessness. And this large black bird just landed outside my window, bang, and halfway through the song. And if I didn't know it was a turkey, I would go, "Whoa, who's trying to break in my house?" Yeah, courage is like that. Fear is like that. Sometimes it keeps us alive, right? Other times, Namo Guanyin Bodhisattva. Okay, Taiwan, Singapore, Malaysia, not to mention India and Nepal and the countries surrounding Southeast and East Asia are suffering hugely from the coronavirus. So as Buddhists, we have something we can do about that, which is reciting Medicine Buddha's mantra for anointing the crown of the head. So what do you say? Join in. Let's do that now. Arahate Samyak Sambuddhaya Yata Vasaji Vasaji Vasaya Samudhate Swaha Aidurya Pravarajaya Tagataya Arahate Samyak Sambuddhaya Karyata Vasaji Vasaji Vasaja Samugate Swaha Namo Bhagavate Vasaja Aidurya Pravarajaya Tagataya Arahate Samyak Sambuddhaya Yata Vasaji Vasaji Vasaja Samugate Swaha. Thank you, everybody, for sharing with me an hour of investigation into the Lotus Sutras, telling of the story of Quan Shi Yin Bodhisattva, the awakened being who hears the sounds, the cries of the world, and who says, if you recite my name, Namo Quan Shi Yin Pusa, I will deliver you from fear. I'm going to ring the bell 3 times and make 3 half bows to the Buddhas, to Guan Yin. Make 3 bows to Master Hua. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. All righty. There we go. See you all next week. Stay well, stay safe, stay healthy. Bye bye, everybody.